Some legends are told, some turn to dust or to gold, but you will remember me for centuries.
This is the Cameron Parker Show, brought to you by Spreaker, where we discuss everything from around the local professional sports scene in Colorado, such as the Denver Broncos.
Chris Harris comes out. I don't know if he was on the drive, but he said, I knew 15 seconds into that game that I should have been on T.Y. Hilton. If players are coming out and saying that, and it falls again on the coaching staff.
Not to mention insiders from around your local sports scene. Ryan Spilborgs, former outfielder for your Colorado Rockies.
It's not going to be the 25 guys that leave spring training that are going to be the only guys the entire season. I mean, we need depth. You need guys that are going to be in your minor leagues that you may not expect.
Ryan Edwards.
You know, when you're talking about an offensive line, it's about the five best guys, right? And you're talking about the five best guys gelling. There hasn't been a lot of time for that.
It's showtime. Are you ready? Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. It is another installment and another episode of the Cameron Parker Show, and it's the second episode in 2018. And we are joined by the HuddleUp Podcast host, Nick Kendell. He joins us now on the part of the Cameron Parker Show. How you doing?
I am doing okay here in Iowa. It has been bitterly cold over the past week. My buddy and I tried to sneak off after New Year's. Everyone was still asleep, a little bit hungover, and tried to sneak off to go get breakfast foods, cook everyone up a breakfast, be nice. Both our cars wouldn't start. It was under negative 20 degrees. So what can you even do at that point? So I'm ready for,
I hear you. I was going to say,
postseason football's great, but what can you do?
I hear you. For New Year's Eve, I went to the Bronco game, and then afterwards we stayed downtown, and we left around like 1 o'clock at downtown Denver, and we were supposed to hit the train that was going to happen probably around 1 o'clock. Come to find out that particular train we were trying to get on was not available, so we had to hop on a train, wait 45 minutes for the train we needed to get on. So we hopped on that train and then got off at a particular station to transfer. So we didn't exactly get home until about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Mountain time, I should add. So, it was a pretty crazy, pretty epic night, I should say.
It sounds like it. I had some buddies in from LA and one from North Carolina, and just had a good time in Iowa City, like the old times.
As fun as New Year's Eve was, it won't be as fun as this Cameron Parker Show, I might add. The Cameron Parker Show will be discussing all sorts of draft prospects. Nick is on, and I will be discussing the Fanspeak Mock Simulator. And if you guys have not done the Fanspeak Mock Simulator, it's kind of fun. You get the chance to pick a team, pick how many rounds you want, the big board, necessarily what kind of big board do you want to use. They usually update it. I haven't been on really since last year, so I don't sometimes there are those big boards to where they don't really update it maybe as often as they should. But it's a good kind of barometer, I should say. Gets you also understanding about prospects potentially of some that maybe you aren't talking about necessarily, or some people aren't talking about. So it's a good barometer. What about you?
I like it, but it frustrates me too. I am a member of the Lombardi draft page, which I believe I just added you to this week, as a lot of people.
Yes.
And some fans that aren't so much in the know-how are posting their mocks constantly on there from that. And sometimes you have guys that are first-round talents falling all the way to the 4th, 5th round, and that just makes me shake my head. Like, I get it, but it gives me false hopes. Like last year I did one of them, and I had Myles Garrett fall to pick 20.
Yeah, I can't believe I was reading through some of the people, like when you mentioned about the Josh Allen thing, and how some people were repetitively saying that the Broncos are in love with Josh Allen when they do not want Josh Allen. It's completely the reverse scenario.
Yeah, as of now, things can change. I mean, obviously, they're going to probably get a chance to look at him at the Senior Bowl and everything, but if you put a gun to my head right now and said, are the Broncos interested in Josh Allen, I think he'd be their fourth quarterback on their board.
Right.
So, fifth pick, I mean, I guess if everybody's gone, I guess that could happen, but odds are I don't think Josh Allen's going to happen. I think it's just too much PTSD with the whole Paxton Lynch debacle that this has been. Not
to mention as far as the travel for Elway. I mean, really, in the terms of him wanting to scout Josh Allen, he's literally just like 5 minutes away. So real quick before we actually kick off the Fanspeak Simulator, the Senior Bowl, it's going to be loaded with a lot of talent, and obviously the Broncos. It was said that they are going to be coaching the Senior Bowl. They'll be coaching the North team. But in particular, this is a really loaded Senior Bowl this year.
I honestly think this might be the best, top-to-bottom, Senior Bowl roster I have ever seen. The only one I can think that might have been a little bit more exciting was the one 2 years ago when they had Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott, two future franchise quarterbacks. But, I mean, this season, especially Josh Allen just accepting his invite. I'm not a big Josh Allen guy, don't get me wrong, but still, it's another name that's definitely intriguing. Baker Mayfield, Mason Rudolph, and then a number of offensive linemen. I mean, it's outside of like edge rusher and cornerback, which I think is a little bit weaker this year. I think it's overall probably a really, really interesting and talented group there that's going to be in Mobile.
And as far as some of your potential prospects, who are some of the people that are probably, and there's a lot of them, but who are some of the people that you potentially could be keeping a close eye on, either on the north side or on the south side?
Well, they haven't officially divvied up the rosters yet. It's just the accepted invites. But, there's some word around there that Broncos requested Baker Mayfield to be there, and the Houston has to comply, and they said yes. So we will see how it's divvied up, but I'm really interested by this offensive tackle group. I mean, there are names on names here, and guys that I'm really excited about. Alex Kappa from Humboldt State, 6'7", 305-pound guy from Division II, but he is, I've heard round 2 buzz for this kid, and how he does there will be very interesting. I've been a big fan of Tyrell Crosby from Oregon, 6'5", 320 pounds, in a left tackle, left guard at Oregon, and I really like how he plays. Desmond Harrison's another really interesting one. He was dismissed from Texas, but really outstanding athlete. Another guy that's big with a prototype frame, 6'6", 320 pounds. Brian O'Neill accepted an invite today, and some people are saying Brian O'Neill could sneak his way up into the top half of the first round. I don't see that on tape, but the raw athleticism is there. I mean, he's a guy who's put on over 60 pounds since he's come to Pittsburgh and transitioned from a tight end to an offensive lineman. And there are some Lane Johnson comps going on. I think he's probably more of a day 2 guy, but still, really exciting. Dehuma Okorafor from Western Michigan, Brandon Parker from North Carolina A&T, Martinez Rankin from Mississippi State. I mean, the offensive tackle group that's going to be at Mobile is going to be lit, as the kids say.
Right.
And I am really excited about it, and I would not be surprised at all if the Broncos look to add one of these guys after getting a chance to look at them and get a little bit more comfortable with them.
One guy in particular has plenty of connections to the new Broncos offensive line coach.
The guard.
Will Hernandez. So we'll see as far as that. Now we're going to actually kick off the Fanspeak Simulator, and we're going to try and play 2 different scenarios. We're going to start off one. We won't go the full 7, but we will be going 5 rounds. But the first scenario that we're going to end up playing with is the scenario of the Broncos signing Kirk Cousins. And then after that, we'll go with this scenario of, they want to go with a draft. So, Nick, I got to ask you, because they have 5-6 different big boards. And I am, I'm not partial to any, although I do like Matt Miller. NFL Mocks, which sounds familiar because you are the new writer over at NFL Mock Crew. They put out their board, I believe it was last updated 3 days ago. Obviously, Fanspeak has their own. Kingdom Connection has theirs, but that really hasn't even been updated since Christmas. Same with Draft Utopia, Draft Tech, and NFL Draft Scout. So, which one would you want to use?
Tip of the cap to Sayer, and let's go with the NFL mocks.
All right, we'll go with the NFL mock. And so again, if you guys have not exactly used Fanspeak, again, it's very easy to use. And it isn't just the mock draft scenarios that you can go ahead and play with. You can do the off-season simulator. It doesn't include the draft, but you can do all sorts of scenarios as far as like manage the cap and so on and so forth. So it's kind of a fun little scenario that you guys can play in different, I guess, ideas in your mind, I should say. All right, so I guess which difficult? This one's new, I guess. Difficulty, classic or difficult?
Let's just leave it at classic for now, and we'll see how it goes. And if it's too easy, we'll switch to difficult for the next one.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Kirk Cousins to the Denver Broncos scenario, and it is rounds. What?
What's the contract there?
Oh, there you go. So what? They said that the actual franchise tag itself could go up to what? $34 million?
I've been told that that's not likely. That it's way more likely that they'd use the transition tag, and that comes with no ability to get picks from him. But with the transition tag, I think that's around 28 point something $million. If Kirk Cousins goes to a different team and brings an offer back to the Redskins and they sign it, he has no choice to sign with the Redskins. So there's talk that if they do hit him with a transition tag, he won't even look at other teams because he doesn't want to risk not having his options open and coming to them with an offer and the Redskins signing it, and then he's stuck there without even getting to hit the market. Chris
Prom has joined the Cameron Parker Show on the Cameron Parker Show text line, I should say, and also the Spreaker Show. Make sure you follow the Cameron Parker Show handle at CP_show. Also follow Nick Kendell at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow me at Cameron Parker PO. All right, let's go ahead and draft. By the way, I do want to ask, what is the difference between a transition tag and, say, like when someone signs a second-round tender and they're forced to match it? What is the difference between that?
Those second-round tenders and whatnot are for restricted free agents.
Okay.
Where the transition tag is kind of a step under the franchise tag. You can have an exclusive franchise tag, a non-exclusive franchise tag, so it has to do with compensation that you get if somebody did sign them. Obviously, the non-exclusive or the exclusive, you can't sign them, and it has different varying levels of pay based on their last salary. We can get really nitty-gritty on this if we want, but pretty much it has to do with the unrestricted free agent, and it gives the Redskins a chance to kind of control the situation with Cousins while not making his cap hit $34 million a year.
Okay. All right. Giggity, giggity, giggity. Let's go drafting, I should say. I was going to say racing, but it doesn't fit. All right, it's 5-round mock draft, including the Kirk Cousins scenario. Let's go. So it's going to do the draft, and we're going to queue up the simulator. And, all right. So the simulator is running. Ooh, this is an interesting scenario, and I can't believe that we're actually looking at this scenario and the fact that Kirk Cousins is on the board. All right, so here we go. The first 4 picks are in. Sam Darnold went to the Cleveland Browns. Saquon Barkley went to the New York Giants. Quentin Nelson went to the Indianapolis Colts, and probably the smartest move of that top 5. One of the favorite players of this entire draft for Nick went to the Cleveland Browns. Denzel Ward. At 4. Oh, and it's worth pointing out, obviously, in these simulators, forgot to mention this, there are no trade scenarios. There's no trades, there's no potential, you want to trade this 5th pick or go back or anything like that. It's just a straight simulator. So what that means is, Nick, is that if the Broncos wanted to just get greedy on the quarterbacks and draft Josh Rosen or Baker Mayfield, they're both available. However, Guys like Minka Fitzpatrick is available. Harold Landry is available. Derwin Jones. Roquan Smith, one of Eric Trickle's crushes, I should say, is available. But this is the Kirk Cousins scenario. And there are a lot of players available.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I would be absolutely shocked if Josh Rosen makes it past 2 in real life. I'm going to come out and say it. Josh Rosen is my quarterback 1. I've spent a lot of hours the past couple days since everything's declared going over tape. And even with the off-field baggage, Josh Rosen's tape is just too... going to trade down because people would be calling like crazy to get Josh Rosen, I think. But in this scenario, no trades, anything like that. And the quarterback filled out. I know the Broncos need offensive line here, but with Quentin Nelson gone, there's some questions about McGlinchey, Orlando Brown, and Connor Williams. I'm going to go with just the best player on my board left. I was really hoping to get Saquon Barkley. Imagine pairing Kirk Cousins with Saquon Barkley. I mean, that's an ideal scenario for the offense. Talk about a shot in the arm for a boring offense the past few years. But I'm going to go with defense. I'm going to go with defensive end. I'm going to go with Bradley Chubb. I really like Bradley Chubb. I think he's weighed in at 6'4", 270, 275 pounds. And some people think that he is just a pure 4-3 defensive end. I say not so fast. I've seen Bradley Chubb moved around that line. He plays a 3-point stance. He can play the 2-point stance. He's played 7-tech. He's played 9-tech. At NC State, they do play more 4-3. But Chubb has enough twitch and get off where I think that he can play in a base 3-4 front. Fine, he can be that strong side edge, which is perfect, opposite Von Miller, who's kind of that smaller, quicker edge on that weak side. And then with how much the Broncos play sub-package defense, whether it be 3 safeties on the field or 3 cornerbacks, and moving one of those defensive ends inside and keeping that nose tackle or whatever it is with 2 defensive tackles / defensive ends, and then the 2 edge rushers being Von Miller and Shane Ray or Shaq Barrett. Shane Ray's been a disappointment this season. He's really not great against the run. He's really actually just terrible at setting the edge. Let's be completely honest. And then Shaq Barrett's a guy who's a restricted free agent this season. There are some rumors that the Broncos may see if they can get some comp for him. Maybe if somebody wants to sign him and give a second-round pick for him, the talk is they're going to put a second-round tender on him with that restricted free agent deal. And there's 4 positions in a draft that if you have a chance to take them and keep building them, you can never have enough quality players there. It's quarterback, cornerback, offensive tackle, and edge rusher. And Bradley Chubb is the best edge rusher in this class, and I think he would be a slam dunk pick and really help that Broncos defense not only get after the quarterback again, but get them younger, which is something that they desperately need. So, Bradley Chubb, edge rusher, NC State.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit interesting, too, because, guys like Mike McGlinchey is also available. But Bradley Chubb, usually you don't think of players from NC State that are that, pure of a pass rusher. So, and it would also eliminate the possibility, like you said, about Shaq Barrett and Shane Ray, either one of those guys not being on the roster next year. If you get a guy
even if you move on from them after this season, you got Chubb for 5 years.
Right.
And he is still relatively young. And Shane Ray, are they going to use the 5th-year option on him? I honestly don't think I would with how he's played the past couple seasons. Shaq Barrett, he's about to be very expensive. So what do? You get an edge rusher opposite Von Miller that's going to be there for 5 years, cost-controlled, and you keep that defense great and you keep hitting other teams' quarterbacks.
All right, so Bradley Chubb is the pick, and the New York Jets take Baker Mayfield right ahead of the Denver Broncos, or right behind the Denver Broncos. And as the picks continue to roll in, they're about finished with the first round. We'll get a little summary as far as who went into this first round. Josh Allen, wow, surprising. He went into the first round to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Ooh, interesting.
Little spoiler alert. All right, so the picks that happened after the Denver Broncos, and again, it was Sam Darnold, Saquon Barkley, Quentin Nelson, Denzel Ward, and then Bradley Chubb with the 5th pick, and Baker Mayfield went to the Jets. Harold Landry.
I honestly would not be surprised if that comes true. The Jets actually have an offensive coordinator that runs some spread concepts. McCown's been good there, and the Jets apparently are one of the teams that really like Baker Mayfield. If the Broncos want Baker, I don't think you can sit and, assuming he does well in this draft process, if the Jets want him, I think the Broncos probably have to move up too, because both those teams are going to be jockeying with that Colts pick, maybe even that Browns pick. So we'll see what happens, but there's going to be a lot of fluidity at the top with all these quarterbacks.
Well, and it's appropriate too, because there's news floating out, and I believe Benjamin Albright put it out there, that the Jets and the Broncos are in fact looking at moving up from the 5th spot.
Yep.
And that would cue to me that they are either interested in one of those 3 quarterbacks: Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, or Baker Mayfield.
Or all 3.
Or all 3, right? Or all 3, because who knows if. And there is that crazy scenario that if Josh Rosen does not go to the New York Giants, and this actually happens, let's just say that this is the non-Kirk Cousins scenario. Let's just say that Josh Rosen does not go to the New York Giants. Well, then I would have a safe bet that one of those 2 teams, the Jets or the Broncos, will be moving up to get Josh Rosen, just because of
Absolutely.
and even for Sam Darnold, for that matter. I mean, let's just say that the Cleveland Browns, and it's been reported that the Cleveland Browns are more interested probably in Josh Allen than they are probably more than any other quarterback. If they do take that, well, then you're also looking at the Sam Darnold situation. So there's a lot of fluidity there.
Cam, I have a question for you. Why would the Browns be interested in Josh Allen, who is a project?
Maybe, seeing, I've been kind of going back and forth with that one, and I guess from the standpoint that, for one, they don't trust Deshaun Kaiser, for one, which they can go a lot of different ways with it. I mean, they don't really have to go with quarterback. They could, if they wanted to, just throw some trust into Deshaun Kaiser and hope he actually develops into something. But with the sake of wanting to go after Josh Allen, he also is kind of that project. So, I mean, for me, I think it makes a ton of sense, because if they want to throw that type of patience at a guy, you may as well do it at Josh Allen, who certainly has plenty of upside. But
I've heard from the birds, so to speak, little birds have told me that the Cleveland Browns have a deal in place with the Chiefs already for Alex Smith.
wow, that's some crazy news right there.
Yes, Alex Smith has a strong relationship with the new Cleveland general manager, former Chiefs general manager, Dorsey, and the Chiefs need contractually to move from Alex Smith after this season, otherwise they're going to be over the cap, and sound like they're ready to move on to Patrick Mahomes next season. Perfect sense. So I've heard that Alex Smith, the deal is written up. It's just waiting for the market to open up, and a 2nd and a 5th round pick over to the Chiefs for one Alex Smith.
Well, and for that type of scenario, that makes a ton of sense. I mean, for that type of scenarios, with the Cleveland Browns wanting to get a guy like an Alex Smith, then you absolutely should get a guy like a Josh Allen, because it could end up being another Patrick Mahomes situation with the Cleveland Browns. But not only that, you might actually have, let's just say, 3 years of of learning for Josh Allen under an Alex Smith. Now, granted, I don't think they're talent-wise the same, but they could, be this, or Josh Allen could certainly learn how to play the quarterback position from a guy that doesn't turn the ball over.
Absolutely. A guy who knows how to run an offense, pro's pro, total veteran, and a guy probably would have been the best quarterback the Cleveland Browns have had since,
Josh McCown.
I mean, probably better than McCown overall.
Right.
But, that'd be a good scenario for them. I think probably Darnold would be a little bit more enticing than Allen from that upside guy that you want behind Alex Smith, but it makes total sense for me. And there's also rumors that they want Saquon Barkley, and the Colts want Saquon, so they may have to just flip with the Jets, take Saquon at 2, or not Jets, the Giants, and then at 4 either trade down or take Allen there. So we'll see what happens. It's very fluid, but that's what I've been hearing. So pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. So Baker Mayfield to the New York Jets, Harold Landry to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Minka Fitzpatrick to the Chicago Bears, Brian O'Neill to the San Francisco 49ers.
Wow.
This one's a really good pick. Roquan Smith to the Oakland Raiders.
Woof.
I know. Billy Price to the Miami Dolphins. Interesting pick, considering Marquise Pouncey.
He's getting old, though. They
But
need guard / center help.
Whoa. Josh Rosen to the Cincinnati Bengals. So Josh Rosen fell all the way, potentially, from what could have been the second pick to the 12th pick with the Cincinnati Bengals. That could save that franchise.
Never happened.
Right.
Never happened.
Derwin James, the safety, and was drafted by the Washington Redskins. Mike McGlinchey to the Green Bay Packers. Mason Rudolph snuck into the first round at 15 to the Arizona Cardinals. James Washington to the Baltimore Ravens. Jamarco Jones to the LA Chargers. Maurice Hurst to the Seattle Seahawks. Christian Wilkins to the Dallas Cowboys. Dorrance Armstrong to Detroit. Arden Key to Tennessee. Derek Nottie to the Buffalo Bills. Armani Watts. Sam Hubbard to the Carolina Panthers. Josh Allen, as I teased earlier, to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Christian Kirk, who I love a lot, to the Buffalo Bills. Connor Williams fell to the LA Rams. That's a sneaky good pick for protecting Jared Goff, and considering that Whitworth is getting up in age.
Yeah.
Josh Sweat, edge rusher, is picked up by the New Orleans Saints. And Lamar Jackson, of all things, snuck into the first round and is picked by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Reginald McKenzie Jr. by Minnesota, and Levi Wallace and Marquise Haynes is drafted by the New England Patriots. Before we move on to the second round, any surprises for you on that list?
Marquise Haynes that early, I guess he could probably have a potential Hassan Riddick rise. Very athletic, played edge rusher at Ole Miss, but is listed at like 220 to 225, so a guy that's going to need to show to be able to play off ball. But kind of that unique chess piece that Bill Belichick has shown to like. Whether or not Bill Belichick's there much longer, we'll see about that.
Yeah.
And a couple other ones we're interested in there as well. Josh Sweat. I don't think Josh Sweat goes that early. He was a really high recruit, but he's had some serious knee injuries that look to have zapped him of some of his burst and flexibility. So I think his medicals are going to be too serious to go that early, even though the tape is solid. And Brian O'Neill going that high. I've heard some rumors that Brian O'Neill might go that high, but we talked about it on here already. But top 10, ooh,
yeah,
that's pretty high.
I guess the surprising one for me would end up being the Lamar Jackson one to Pittsburgh, because I feel like as far as the waiting in the wings quarterback is a guy like Josh Dobbs. But, I mean, who knows? They may have a lot of trust in Lamar Jackson to be that waiting in the wings type of player, and Todd Haley seems like he could be that type of that type of coach that could potentially mold an offense for a guy like Lamar Jackson. So, or they could kind of go the Terrell Pryor route and convert him into a wide receiver, which is a possibility of him going to a wide receiver.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think they should. I don't think they will in the end, but it's
Right.
been talked about. So,
And on to the next round. For the second round, again, Bradley Chubb was the first round selection for the Denver Broncos, and it looks like the Broncos are on the clock, and the picks that rolled in that second round are Levi Wallace to end that first, Marquise Haynes, Cortland Sutton went into the second round to the Cleveland Browns. Ryan Finley to the New York Giants. Darius, is it Guice? Dice to the Cleveland Browns. Bryce Love to the Indianapolis Colts. That's a sneaky pick in that second round.
yes, it is.
Orlando Brown to the New York Jets.
Oh, man, that's who I was going to take. I was like, oh, man, he hasn't said that name yet. That's a good one. Orlando Brown's getting some hype recently. He played great in that game. Athletic, and could solve that right tackle position for a while.
Yeah, Jare Alexander to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tyquan Lewis to the Chicago Bears. So the Broncos now sit with the 8th pick in the second round, and they are staring at picks such as Rashaan Evans, Calvin Ridley, Mark Andrews, Mandrews, Joshua Jackson, Malik Jefferson, Isaiah Oliver, Ronald Jones, Ronnie Harrison, Deion Kane, Dante Booker, Tavares McFadden. Your favorite player, Deontay Burnett. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Damian Harris. Let's see, Micah Kaiser. So there are still some options out there. They could go tight end, get that playmaker who is the best tight end in the class, and that is Mandrews. They can go to Calvin Ridley if they want to. That is maybe pinpointing if they want to re-sign Cody Latimer or if they end up re-signing Cody Latimer. And for that matter, if they decide to move on from Emmanuel Sanders also.
I think I'm going to go with Calvin Ridley for that very reason, especially because this is the Kirk Cousins scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Odds are that Kirk Cousins means that Emmanuel Sanders or GT, but most likely Emmanuel Sanders, is not here next year. And Calvin Ridley, to me, is a top 15 player in this class. He can play inside, outside. He can be a vertical threat. He can be a guy underneath. He runs great routes. And I think that he's a great option here in the second round, especially if you're looking to get younger on offense and adding weapons to Kirk Cousins at a cheaper price than what Emmanuel Sanders would have been. I would have liked to have gone offensive line there. I know we've haven't gone there the past two picks, but I'm still a firm believer that this offensive line was not as bad as many made it out to be. It's not a great line. It's definitely a bottom 15 line in the NFL, but I think that the quarterback play really compounded the issues there. I mean, when you have a quarterback that's one of the worst under pressure and one of the worst at snap to release in the NFL with zero pocket awareness, and what Simeon was, and this season, I think the offensive line is coming around, and I would like to go offensive line here, but Calvin Ridley is just too good of a value, so I'm going to go with Ridley.
So Calvin Ridley is the pick for the Denver Broncos, and that's a really interesting pick to me because I feel like he could, if he wants to, fit that Amari Cooper role. And coming from the same university, he is he's a very good route runner, much like Amari Cooper. Maybe not the best hands. Maybe still really good hands, but I mean, Amari Cooper had phenomenal hands coming out of college, and he was a tremendous route runner. So I guess maybe the one thing about Amari Cooper versus Ridley is that he didn't have the versatility necessarily that Ridley has. Am I right?
Cooper went, what was it, the sixth pick, the fourth pick?
Yeah, he was. Let's just say, if I remember right, I think he was top 10.
I think it was the fourth pick because I think. Kevin White went 6.
Yeah.
In that draft.
You're right, because I remember Kevin White being drafted ahead of Amari Cooper, because there was a much discussion as necessarily of who is the better wide receiver prospect. Was it Kevin White? Was it Amari Cooper?
Do you know who went in between them?
Oh. That's a good one. I don't remember that.
Brandon Scherf, go Hawks.
Brandon Scherf. Speaking of the Hawks, Joshua Jackson went 2 picks after the Broncos to the Miami Dolphins. So Ronald Jones went to Oakland, and Joshua Jackson to Miami. Drew Bailey to New England. Rashaan Evans to Washington. Star Latuale, his brother Lowell Latuale, went to the Green Bay Packers. Martanis Rankin to Cincinnati. Isaiah Oliver to Arizona. Ronnie Harrison to the Chargers. Tavares McFadden to the Jets. Mandrews to the Cowboys. That's a really good pick considering the potential age of Jason Witten. Carlton Davis went to the Lions. Braden Smith to Baltimore. Dante Booker, Buffalo. Jordan Whitehead, Rick Leonard, Deion Kane, Malik Jefferson, Deshaun Hand to the Jaguars, like they need another pass rusher.
Yeah.
Deontay Burnett to San Fran, Quinn Blanding to Buffalo, Marcel Frazier, Micah Kaiser to Pittsburgh, Daron Payne, and Tyrell Crosby sneaking into the New England Patriots. Anybody there after the Broncos pick that stands out to you?
Daron Payne, I think he's a first-round talent. He had an amazing game in the college football semifinals. I really like Tyrell Crosby. Joshua Jackson, I think, is a guy that could end up a first-round pick, maybe in top 15, depending on how he does at the combine. There's questions about his speed, but if he runs a sub 4.5, I think top 20 pick is definitely within reach. And I really like what the Redskins are doing on defense. You know, they might not have that quarterback since we stole it from them, but I think they took Derwin James in the first round and Rashaan Evans in the second. Talk about getting some athleticism and some speed in that back seven there. That's definitely some interesting stuff going on there.
Absolutely, and you know, maybe for me, you know, you look at I touched a little bit on it, but the Mark Andrews pick to Dallas, you don't know necessarily what potentially could be there with Jason Witten. It's kind of like the Antonio Gates scenario. Maybe more so we're just waiting for that moment when Antonio Gates hangs it up. So maybe same thing for Jason Witten. And it's just kind of smart too because it gives Dak Prescott just another playmaker that he can, you know, throw to. And it's a guy that, well, we don't know potentially what the future could be for Des Bryant, and we all know one of the quarterback's favorite targets is that slot receiver, a guy like a Cole Beasley. And, you know, Mark Andrews would be kind of a dynamic tight end to go along with a guy like a Cole Beasley. So I personally kind of like the Mark Andrews pick, but I'm kind of biased to Andrews anyway. So, so that is the picks in the second round. We head to the third. And the simulator is running. Still looks like some playmakers on the board. Damian Harris, the running back of Alabama. Hayden Hurst from South Carolina. Anthony Miller from Memphis. Frank Ragnow from Arkansas. Royce Freeman from Oregon. Alan Lazard. TJ Edwards from Wisconsin. Uh-oh. This name sounds familiar, Nick. Taven Bryan in the third round. Sonny Michel, Dante Pettis, Tony Fumagalli, Ito Smith, Asim Victor, Vita Vea, Nick Chubb is in here. Josie Jewell in the third round, potentially. But so there are still some really good playmakers, it seems, that are still available. But Will Hernandez came off the board to the New York Giants in the third round.
Well, damn it. That's too bad. These things always tick me off because I feel like I get painted into a corner. This is why it's important to go into the draft with no real needs, because then you can just let the board fall and take it as it will. And in this scenario, I know the Broncos need offensive line, but I'm sorry, I'm going to punt again. I know this is probably making some people pull their hair out, but I believe in drafting, especially when you're drafting as high as the Broncos are, you need talent all across the roster, period. And especially when you're going to be putting $30 million per season in Kirk Cousins, then all that money in Von Miller as well. You just take talent. Just take talent and hope that it works out. And I actually heard potentially two top 25 players on this board. And as much as I love Taven Bryan, I think Vita Vea is a potential top 15 pick in this class. Broncos have Pecco at nose tackle, but he's a little bit older. They don't have really a young guy behind him. And at defensive end, I mean, what do you have? You have Gotsis there. You have Wolf, who might be retiring soon with the injuries he's had. Shelby Harris is more of a backup. And I think Vita Vea, after his combine and how he's played, and from what I've heard, people are saying top 20 pick. So I'm going to walk out here with Vita Vea here. And I know that you need offensive line. I get it. I know. But the talent is too immense. Talent is too immense. And I'll be damned if I'm going to reach on an offensive lineman when there's a potential first-round defensive lineman there.
How much does Vita Vea maybe remind a little bit of a Holy Nada?
Holy Nada?
Yeah.
A decent amount, honestly. I mean, I've seen, I don't know how much you watched of that Fiesta Bowl, but Vita Vea actually made a tackle on punt coverage. That's a 6'5", 344-pound monster, and he's running down the field.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to lose some weight, I think, to handle Denver, I think, with the altitude and everything. But he's a freak athlete, and probably, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the first interior defensive lineman off the board. So I'm adding talent on the defensive line. I'm getting younger on the defensive line, and I know we need offensive line. But there are some young guys that I have a feeling are going to fall that by the time that we are talking, if we're listening back on this by the draft time, I'll be like, how the heck did you get that guy round 4? He should have been a second-round pick. So we'll see how it falls.
We'll see how it falls, absolutely. And so Vita Vea is the pick for the Denver Broncos, and the Broncos still have a third-round pick. And there are such playmakers available such as Alan Lazard, Sonny Michel, Dante Pettis, Troy Fumagalli, Auden Tate from Florida State. Nick Chubb is still out there. Mike Gesicki from Penn State. Dallas Goedert, who some people actually feel might be the second best tight end in this class. Now, as far as offensive linemen, Colton Miller is there. Guard Brendan Mahan. At center is Will Clapp. Bradley Bozeman from Alabama. Some more offensive tackle. Ike Bodeger, Alan Dillard, Casey McDermott, Crabtree, Brandon Parker. Let's see here. As far as linebacker,
Alex Kappa, already gone. Desmond Harrison, Chukwuma Okorafor.
It appears Desmond Harrison is there.
How low is he on the board?
He is, according to the NFL mocks, as far as the overall player ranking, he is ranked 250th.
Wow, that is insane. I've heard second round buzz for this guy. So obviously how he does at the combine will be big, but I really like what I hear from him.
Would it be a potential reach if we were to draft him? Would it be a potential reach if we were to draft him in the third round?
It's obviously going to depend on how he does in the Senior Bowl and the Combine. But right now, I think third round is not out of the question at all. At all. So I'm not going to go with him because I'm cheating. I see that he's down there, and I doubt he's going to go before that. Alex Kappa has gone, or is Alex Kappa not even on the list?
As far as... I'll go through the offensive linemen. Colton Miller, Ike Bodeger, Andre Dillard, Casey McDermott, Zachary Crabtree, Desmond Harrison, Toby Weathersley, Brandon Parker, Brock Rubel, and the guards, Brendan Mahan, Bo Benchwall from Wisconsin, Tyron Crowder, Larry Allen, Lester Cotton, and the centers, Will Clapp, Bradley Bozeman, Austin Colson, Mason Cole, Michael Dieter, Scott Quisenberry. So it looks like he had just he must have been off the board.
He's either off the board or not included.
That too.
Very possible from a guy from Humboldt State.
That too. I mean, it's well, and sometimes too, they fail to include some of the players necessarily because they really can't include them all.
Yeah, you listed two of the people that I'd be interested in here that weren't listed, but I'm not sure if they've been taken. Obviously, I don't see what you're picking at, but Wyatt Teller from Virginia Tech's a guard I really like. And I know that I had Desmond Harrison in my back pocket, and I'll be able to get him later on. So I'm going to go with another extremely enticing talent. I'm going to go with Dallas Goedert.
Interesting pick.
I think he's, from what I've seen from the tape, not only is he a good athlete and a good route runner, but he's also good in the air. That's something that I haven't really seen so much from Mark Andrews. I mean, how many times have you seen Mark Andrews had to make contested catches? In that system at Oklahoma, he gets a lot of open reads, which is fine. I mean, once he gets the ball in his hands, he's a good athlete, he's a good route runner, everything like that. But in the NFL, to be tight end, to be an effective tight end, you have to show that you have the ability to make some contested catches. And Dallas Goedert has shown that, plus athleticism. So I think that he, again, could really rise in this process. And if I'm not mistaken, he will be on the Broncos roster in the Senior Bowl as well. So a guy that Broncos are interested in tight end, another guy to pair with Jake Butt. And Goddard is more of the flex tight end, that more athlete guy that can be moved around. So I'm killing myself for not going offensive line again. But there are some names I've heard. I got a couple in there that you mentioned that I have in my back pocket that I really do like, that I think will rise up boards when the time comes.
So I gotta, and I'll be doing a lot more homework on Dallas Goedert because he's the guy that, I potentially could see as being maybe a tight end 2 or maybe like 1B necessarily to Mark Andrews when all is said and done. When you look at a guy like a Dallas Goedert or a Goddard, what is the biggest difference between him and Mandrews?
Again, it's the ability to play for contested footballs. That tight end, especially over the middle, in the NFL, it's going to be crowded. You're going to have to come up with some tight window catches, and you're going to have to be utilized in the red zone. And while I do love Mark Andrews' size, speed, route running, which is all phenomenal for a tight end position, I haven't seen him with the ability to make catches with guys in his face, in his frame. A lot of his big plays come from him running a good route, getting separation in that regard, and then Baker Mayfield making the obvious read, hitting him in the slant or in the flat, and then him making big plays. But Goddard, I've seen him with the ability not only to do that as well, granted against smaller competition, but I'm getting him here end of the third round. It has a lot to do with his ability to make contested catches while on top of being a good route runner and a good exceptional athlete for the position. And I've heard NDT scoutings, Kyle Krabs compare him to this draft's Travis Kelce. So I'm really interested to see how he looks at the Senior Bowl, how he does at the Combine. And the Broncos were very high on Adam Shaheen last year, so I don't think they'll be fated or be afraid of taking a small school tight end if the traits are there. Absolutely,
and again, I will have to watch more of Dallas Goedert, but everything that I've seen initially, I really do like a lot of the tight end. And I always personally, this is a side note, but I personally do like those small school tight ends that are just climbing up the charts. And it's one reason, I guess, and he hasn't even found an NFL roster, but it's one of the reasons why I liked Anthony Auclair from Laval last year as one of the tight end prospects. A guy that, well, he's not on an NFL roster, but as far as being athletic and being incredibly unknown, it's one of the reasons I liked him. Was just he's very tall and he's very athletic in the way he moved from a tight end. Now, granted,
trust me, people are going to know Dallas Goedert. Though people will know that name because he is going to do things at the Combine and at the Senior Bowl.
Will he move into the first round?
I don't think he'll move into the first round, but it would not surprise me one bit if he moves into the top 40, top 50.
All right. Well, Josie Jewell was drafted by the Miami Dolphins. Go Hawks. Royce
I like that.
I know, it tasted like vinegar coming out of my mouth. Royce Freeman went to Baltimore. Chakua Okorafor, am I saying that right?
Oh, man, dude, I would have gone with him. I asked if he was on the board still. It's okay.
I could have sworn when I looked at everybody, he wasn't there. When I rattled off all the tackles.
I would have definitely gone with him at 3C there.
All right.
If I knew he was on the board. We can say if we took him. I still like Dallas Goedert, but I feel like after going Bradley Chubb, Ridley, and Villa.
Oh wait, he wasn't on the board. He that was at pick number 22, and we had pick 34 in the third round. So he wasn't on the board.
So he's gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alan Lazard went to Cincinnati. Kendrick Norton, Auden Tate went to Green Bay. That's kind of a nice little maybe player to play alongside Devontae Adams and maybe Jordy Nelson or Randall Cobb, depending on what they do with both of them. But I would have to say that that's a pretty good haul for the third-round pick of Vita Vea and Dallas Goedert. Potentially,
we're killing it right now. We haven't got an offensive line, but as far as just letting the board fall and taking talent as it comes, because this team is not. Let's be honest, you're picking 5th overall for a reason. You need talent across the board. And if you're adding Kirk Cousins, it means you're probably cutting veteran talent. So you need to hit this draft and not reach. So what am I doing? I'm letting the board fall. I'm taking Chubb, Ridley, Villa, and Goddard. All I wouldn't be surprised top 40 picks.
So now we move into the 4th round. And it appears that we will have the 6th pick in the 4th round. Remember, we're going to 5 rounds, not 7, and this is the post-Cousins era, I should say, of when Kirk Cousins is signed by the Denver Broncos. That scenario.
This is the dawn of the Cousins era, not the post-Cousins era. It's post-Cousins era.
Sorry, right. I should rephrase that. Post-Cousins era would be, whatever happens potentially when he's on the Broncos. My apologies. So Dante Pettis from Washington, Ito Smith from Southern Miss. Nick Chubb is still out there. Wow. DJ Moore, Mike Gesicki. I do like Mike Gesicki, but obviously us getting Dallas Goedert is a incredible value in that third round. Adam Brenneman, I also like a lot. But we're not talking about tight ends because we've already sold on tight ends. As far as going back to the offensive linemen, Desmond Harrison is still out there. Andre Dillard, Ike Bodeger, Brandon Parker, Toby Weathersby, Casey McDermott, and at guard, still some decent ones out there. Tyron Crowder, Bo Benchwall from Wisconsin, Larry Allen, Lester Cotton, Will Clapp, Bradley Bozeman, Austin Golson, Mason Cole, Michael Dieter, Scott Quessenberry, and if we want to go edge rusher again, Tremont Edmonds, Hercules, Mataafa from Washington State, Chad Thomas, wow, out there, and some people actually have him, I believe, as the 6th best edge rusher on some of the draft boards. Let's see.
So we should be looking at offensive line, inside linebacker, and secondary. After hitting edge rusher, wide receiver, nose tackle / defensive end, and tight end, we've hit. I think we're doing okay, unless there's a dynamic running back there. But I think this has to be either a cornerback or offensive line.
Now, as far as cornerback, J.C. Jackson from Maryland, Duke Dawson from Florida, Kevin Tolliver from LSU, Sarah Neal from Jacksonville State, Amon Marshall, Ken Webster, Darius Phillips, Tony Brown, Deion Harris, Cameron Kelly, Jordan Thomas, and Ranthony Texada from TCU. And then what was the other position?
Inside linebacker.
Inside
off-ball linebacker.
So Jerome Baker, Mike McRae, Sean Dion Hamilton from Alabama, Matthew Thomas, Jason Kabinda, hey, Kendall Joseph, Leighton Vander Esch. Oh boy, that sure sounds intriguing.
Do you know him? Have you watched him at all?
Yeah.
Oh man, he was killer in that bowl game. All over the field.
Jack Seachy from Wisconsin.
Okay, we're gonna punt on inside linebacker. I like a lot of those names. See, it's kind of like a tier drafting. That's a good way to think about it. Where if there's like 4 or 5 names that you like there, we'll punt on it till next round.
Okay.
Can you do a control F for me with the listed players? I'm just curious if Wyatt Teller is even there. Like not the ones that have that are available, but I think if you can, I've used Fanspeak before. If you search control F and type in a name, it might take you to it. Just type in Wyatt. If you can't, that's fine. I'm just really curious.
I have a Mac, so it's all the
Command F.
Command F.
Yes.
Let's see. Oh, looks like it showed up. All right, what was the name?
Wyatt. W-Y-A-T-T.
Wyatt. Jordan Wyatt.
Nope, Wyatt Teller is the name. He's at the Senior Bowl. I mean, he definitely should be on there. If he's not, shame on you, the site that I work for. Because I really like Wyatt Teller.
It doesn't look like he's out there. And it's W-Y-A-T-T and then Teller, right?
Wyatt Teller from Virginia Tech. He was first team All-ACC, moved from tackle to guard, and they literally just run behind him constantly. He has super great long hair, which is fun to watch from that guard position. He pulls well. He goes out to the second level well. He's absolutely just a ton of bricks. Weight room warrior. I mean, I really like Wyatt Teller. If you're looking for a late day 2, early day 3 guard, Wyatt Teller is the guy I'm planting my flag on. Because every time I've watched Virginia Tech, that's the guy that stands out to me.
All right. So no, he is not there. And as far as if we wanted to go quarterback and get a guy that sits behind Kirk Cousins, Jarrett Stidham, who by the way has decided to return to school. Riley Ferguson, Daniel Jones. Really, there's nothing here. except for the popular names of Jake Browning and Riley Ferguson and Jarrett Stidham. Let's see. I was going to say Kyle Lauletta is not even on here.
Yeah, that's too bad.
So wide receiver, still some players there. Defensive lineman. As far as we go back to the best players. So you're looking at Sony Michel, Dante Pettis, Ito Smith, Nick Chubb, DJ Moore, Mike Gesicki, Marcel Atman, Mark Walton, Deshaun Elliott, Jerome Baker, just to name a few.
I know it's not the best value, but let's go with Desmond Harrison here. Let's just move on from it. Desmond Harrison is a guy that was recruited to play at Texas, and he was part of the massive exodus that was the Charlie Strong era. A lot of talented players moved on from there. But, I mean, he moves well, and he's a guy that, from what I've heard from scouts, people are very excited about him. So he's very excited about the opportunity, too, from what I've heard. I think Walter Football has him listed as a potential top 40 pick as well. So Desmond Harrison's one. This is a deep offensive tackle class, luckily. But I got to go with Desmond Harrison here. I think it's too good of value.
Absolutely. So what is your potential comp for a guy like that?
Potential comp for a guy like that? Oh, man. So he's a guy that probably you don't want starting day one. But with that size and that frame, I'm running through some names in my head here.
I mean, is he a guy kind of like let's just say a Julian Davenport that is potentially, not story-wise, but just a guy that is very lanky and a guy that could potentially be a stud starter at tackle in a few years?
Yeah, that's potential, but I think he's not as raw as Julian Davenport was. I mean, Julian Davenport played for very small school Bucknell, whereas I see much more potential with, at least early on potential, from Desmond Harrison. I think a decent comparison would be Sean Coleman, if that name rings a bell.
Mm-hmm.
Former tackle from Auburn, who hasn't been amazing at Cleveland yet, but athletic profile, a little bit more raw, but still has the frame, has the movement skills, and you put him in a good scenario with a good coach, and you develop him. I mean, you got a potential high-end starter there. So if we're going fourth round, we're getting a tackle here. I know we're punting on it late, and I actually pulled up Fanspeak to see if Wyatt Teller was on here. He's not. Shame on you, NFL Mocks. He's definitely one to watch out for.
Checking to make sure I wasn't lying, eh? So checking to make sure I wasn't lying, eh?
Yeah, I like him, but I don't love him round one. Love him.
Yeah.
But for this round, he's definitely one of my guys. For if I was doing a mock draft or whatever, I'm trying to pencil him in there every time.
So the Broncos still have a pick in the fourth round, and it will be the 9th pick in the fourth round.
Thank you, 49ers.
Exactly. So as far as safety, if we were interested in maybe a safety player, corner, Deshaun Elliott from Texas, and maybe it would be that scenario that if they do cut ties with Darian Stewart, which is a possibility from what I've heard. I mean, it's kind of that under the radar guy that could end up being that could hit the streets. As far as Darian Stewart, would you want to go safety potentially here as far as depth? I mean, because all that would be left would be Jamal Carter.
Yeah, I mean, we also have Will Parks, but honestly, I think let's go to Deshaun Elliott here. I think he's a day 2 player, probably. I mean, he's a potential NFL starter, and I have no issues adding talent to that secondary. That's definitely something that's a need, and I've liked what I've seen from Elliott. He has good ball skills, and I think he's a strong safety at the next level, which is exactly what the Broncos need, because Justin Simmons, I think, is going to be a good free safety for the next 5-10 years there, hopefully.
All right, so you agree potentially maybe going safety here?
Yeah. Safety and cornerback are definitely needs, linebacker as well, but I liked a lot of those linebacker names.
Yeah. All right, so we will go Deshaun Elliott there with the the 8th pick in the 4th round. And the 4th round will be finished here, hopefully, and then we can get to the final round of this mock draft. And potentially, overall, we can see where the pieces may end up falling. Overall, I'm still pretty impressed overall the fact we were able to get Bradley Chubb with the 5th pick, Calvin Ridley in the 2nd round, which is surprising, Vita Vea, in that 3rd round, along with Dallas Goedert. That's a pretty incredible haul still, nonetheless. And then now you add in Desmond Harrison and Deshaun Elliott in the 4th round.
Yeah, no, I know we haven't really hit the offensive line like I'm sure some listeners would like, but, I mean, we're taking talent, and we're adding talent across the board, and I am very happy about it.
Well, and again, I mean, we touched on it. This is the Kirk Cousins era, not the post-Kirk Cousins era, but it is the Kirk Cousins era with the Denver Broncos, and it's important that when you have the Kirk Cousins era, you surround him with as much talent as you can. I mean, you think back to the players that were in Washington, at least last year, but just in general, they had Jamison Crowder, probably one of the best slot receivers and special teams talent that's in the National Football League that really doesn't get a whole lot of credit for. So, and Kirk Cousins potentially found a favorite receiver in Jamison Crowder. And so kind of getting that type of playmaker for the Broncos offense, I would still think is a necessity. And I think that's why maybe I look at a guy like a Carlos Henderson maybe next year as potentially being that guy. We'll see. But I think, even for a Calvin Ridley, we'll see if they want to getting a guy like a Calvin Ridley. Does that mean that that's going to spell the end of Cody Latimer? Or is it going to spell the end of an Emmanuel Sanders? I don't know. But we'll see. Again, it's the best player available.
Yes.
So to the 5th round we go. Oh, Nick Chubb was taken in that 4th round, obviously. And we are on the clock with the 5th pick, and the guys that were taken there in that 5th round were Jonathan Abram, Mark Walton, Kyle Hicks to the Seattle Seahawks. The guys that are available in this 5th round are Adam Brenneman, Chad Thomas, Paris Campbell, Mike McCray from Michigan, Myles Gaskin from Washington, Michael Hill, Ohio State, Andrew Brown, Bo Scarborough, the lame man's version of Derrick Henry, Jalen Smith, no relation to the linebacker that was of Notre Dame, Jeb Blazevich from Georgia, Duke Dawson, Sean Dion Hamilton, Philip Lindsay from Colorado, Cam Serene, Michael Gallup, by the way, and I really do like Michael Gallup a lot. And maybe it's just because I'm biased to the Colorado here and seeing prospects do well. But I really do like the potential prospect of a Michael Gallup. He's not a household name in the wide receiving class, but I think he's a guy that you will see potentially play on Sunday. And I think, you think of what potentially was with Rashard Higgins. I would maybe venture to say that Michael Gallup might be a better wide receiver prospect maybe as versus a Rashard Higgins.
I think I know who I want, though.
And who would that be?
I'm going to go with Michael Dieter. He's listed at center. He played center at Wisconsin last season, but this season he played at left tackle, and he was solid there, but he's better at interior. And we already grabbed our upside tackle in Brandon Harrison. Michael Dieter is a junior. It's been rumored if he's coming out or not, but if he does come out, he's going to be a day 2 player. I almost have no doubt. He's got great size. He's very versatile. He's been the leader of this Wisconsin offensive line for 2 years. Ryan Ramczyk was the most talented on there, but Dieter was the guy that was leading them. He's played center, he's played guard, he's played both tackle spots, and the Broncos really need power blocking guys who are versatile across the interior of the offensive line, especially with we're not sure what's going to happen with Paradis, and we need more talent on that our offensive line in general. And from everything I've seen from Michael Dieter, he has every tool you want to be a starting offensive lineman in a power scheme in the NFL. So he's going to be coached well. He's going to know that power scheme, and he plays nasty as well. So I'll take any sort of guard, especially day 3, offensive lineman who's versatile, smart, and plays with a mean streak and has technique, I mean, sign me up. So I'm going to go with Michael Dieter here.
Not to mention the history, too, with Wisconsin offensive linemen. I mean, if you want to label Wisconsin the offensive line university, well, I would tend to agree with you. And, I mean, because the history is there, potentially looking at, well, the now longest tenured Ironman, left tackle for the Cleveland Browns. So the history is there for Wisconsin offensive linemen to translate to the National Football League. The Broncos still have a 5th-round pick.
Thank you, Atlanta, for taking Tyson Brilo.
That's right. We went offensive lineman again, Michael Dieter. And as far as some of the best player availables, Philip Lindsay, Rashad Penny from San Diego State. Let's see, Harrison Phillips from Stanford.
Is Vander Esch still there?
What was the name?
Vander Esch. He is the linebacker from...
Yes, he is.
Let's go with Vander Esch.
And what is your I guess breakdown of Leighton Vander Esch?
I really like Vander Esch. He moves very well. He was the Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year. Sometimes he can play a little bit. He can get a little bit sloppy with his feet. Sometimes he'll get those hips out of place, and that can put him in a bad spot. But he looks to have pretty good instincts. He moves well. He's very aggressive, and I think he has the frame and the fluidity to get even better. So I think you're nabbing a guy that could potentially start there year 1. I think more likely he's more of a special teams guy, but he's played in the Mountain West. He knows how to play in altitude. He's been a leader for the last 2 seasons for the Boise State Broncos, who are obviously one of the better non-Power 5 teams in the country. And I really like what I see from him. And he declared early, so he must have gotten a good grade from the advisory board as well.
Well, that will do it for the 5-round Kirk Cousins era with the Denver Broncos. I would have to say that this should at least generate a pretty good grade. In my estimation, just as far as the amount of value that we got. There were some risks, potentially, just as far as the actual player rankings of this. But when all is said and done, I'm overall pretty impressed with this draft.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would obviously love to go offensive line because I'm definitely a trench guy through and through. But I'm going to go best player available. This has not been the best team. And I just want to add talent everywhere you can. Everywhere you can. And I think, Bradley Chubb, Calvin Ridley, Vita Vea, Dallas Goedert, Desmond Harrison, Sean Elliott, Michael Dieter, and Vander Esch. I mean, that's a lot of talent. I wouldn't be surprised if all those guys were top 100 picks. So I'm not upset about it. I know you want offensive line if you can. And I remember the offensive line tends to go pretty early in the simulator. I remember being frustrated about that last year with skill positions falling, so noted for next time. But yeah, no, I think you got a lot of talent here, and the Broncos definitely got better.
Absolutely. Well, should we do the not Kirk Cousins era?
Yeah, I'd be down for it.
Let's do the not Kirk Cousins era that will could potentially include maybe a scenario where Josh Rosen is not taken by the New York Giants. We'll see. We'll do the. Is there potentially a big board that you wanted to choose differently this time? Maybe go with Matt Miller.
Let's not go with Matt Miller's. Let's go with.
So they have Fanspeak, NFL Mock, Kingdom Connection, Draft Tech, and Draft Scout. But again, those haven't really even been updated. From Kingdom Connection all the way to Draft Scout, really haven't been updated since Christmas. So the
Let's
updated
just go
one.
with DraftSpeak Classic. I mean, our Fanspeak. That's what they have.
All right. Let's go with Fanspeak, and then as far as team needs, it would be NFL Mock or Fanspeak. I guess for team, we did Fanspeak last time, but I guess we can
Just
go
leave
with.
it on Fanspeak.
Just keep it on Fanspeak.
Yep.
Let's
go difficult.
We'll go difficult.
Yeah.
This is when the nitty-gritty happens, ladies and gentlemen. We're going difficult. So 5 rounds. Fanspeak all the way around, and we're going difficult. And the simulator is running.
By the way, Wyatt Teller's on this one.
Holy cow! I am a little shocked, Nick.
Who went 1?
Minka Fitzpatrick
Huh.
and Saquon Barkley went to the Giants.
Okay.
Martinez Rankin went 3rd, and Baker Mayfield went to Cleveland.
Josh Rosen's going to be a Bronco. Easiest pick. Best quarterback in this draft, in my opinion. He doesn't have the upside that Darnold has as an athlete, but Rosen can make literally every throw. He moves in the pocket well. There are some questions about his ability under pressure, but I'm honestly not as worried about it. I think that he has shown better there, and honestly, when you're getting ramsacked by Texas A&M, who had 2 very talented edge rushers last season, and playing behind a UCLA offensive line that honestly was not that great, I think Rosen's as safe or as talented on tape of a quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. That's how impressed I am with his tape. He literally, besides some questions about his ability to handle pressure in his face, and obviously there's some personality questions off the field, I'm not meeting the guy face to face, so I can't answer that, at least until the combine.
Right.
But apparently supposed to be brilliant, great footwork, perfect mechanics, great down the field accuracy, can make every throw. I mean, what more could you want from a young franchise quarterback? So
I really liked your Matt Ryan comp in the beginning. I hated it to begin with. Let's just be honest. Maybe not hate it, but I remember.
You disagreed.
I remember I disagreed with it, but the more I started kind of watching Josh Rosen, I think I started understanding why you went Matt Ryan.
He looks a lot like him when he plays.
He really does look a lot like Matt Ryan. The fluidity of when he plays, the way that he throws the football, the confidence that he has in the pocket, it just screams similarities of Matt Ryan. And so I'm starting to be a little bit more sold necessarily on Josh Rosen, but I have Sam Darnold as my top quarterback just because I think he's oozing with talent. And if he can go to a system, maybe like Denver, that can maybe work with him, and a guy like Bill Musgrave. But, I mean, the thing is you can't go wrong with either one of them because Bill Musgrave and that coaching staff now with Mike Sullivan, I think will do wonders for a guy like a Josh Rosen or a Sam Darnold, no matter what.
Yep.
So, Josh Rosen is the pick, and the Denver Broncos have their quarterback of the future. And Sam Darnold went to the New York Jets, by the way, right after Josh Rosen. Lamar Jackson went to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay.
A little interesting there. Cincinnati really likes their quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, we did use the same team needs, so I guess Fanspeak really thinks the Bengals need a quarterback.
Wow. Roquan Smith fell all the way into the end of the first round. That's a bit surprising.
Yeah, I like Roquan Smith, but I do think he is a little bit overrated. I mean, I'd like him top 15, but there are some questions with him. I think he processes just a little bit slow sometimes, and I do worry about his size. If he is 6'1", 220 for a 3-4 inside linebacker, I mean, I don't know how that's going to work, because in base with the three down linemen, he's going to have to take on offensive linemen pretty regularly. He's going to have to come in and fill gaps pretty regularly. And when you're that size, I mean, what was Oklahoma doing in that first half? They were running it at him. I don't know why they went away from that. They're running it at him and getting those offensive linemen to engage with him head on. And when that happens, when Roquan Smith is running sideline to sideline, he looks as good as any linebacker in the country. But coming downhill, stacking and shedding blocks and taking on offensive linemen, I don't know if he has the size or the strength for that. He's got to beat guys to this spot. And even then, if the running back takes a good angle or it's a good play call, I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he combats that. So there are some limitations there with him. But I do like him. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a top 15 talent. But he's not – I would say I would have – besides the medicals, obviously, last year. But on tape, Reuben Foster was a better linebacker last year.
So here we go. Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, Bradley Chubb, Harold Landry to Chicago, Mike McGlinchey to San Francisco, Christian Wilkins to Oakland, Quentin Nelson to Miami, Lamar Jackson to Cincinnati, Derwin James to Washington, Maurice Hurst to Green Bay, Vita Vea to Arizona. That's a great pick.
Hey, we got him in the third round.
We got him in the third round, that's right. James Washington to Baltimore.
Bad
Bad
pick.
Yeah.
That's a reach.
That's definitely a reach. Colton Miller to the Chargers. Lowell Latulele to Seattle. I don't know if he's that high.
He shouldn't be.
Ronnie Hare. I mean, if he came out last year, Lowell Latulele, I probably would have had him as a second-round pick. He was a much better draft prospect probably last year than he was this year.
Yeah.
Taven Bryan into the first round. He was drafted by the Buffalo Bills.
Hey, I can get behind that.
He's a first-round talent. You sold me on him. Denzel Ward to the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's a great pick. There's actually a lot of significant good picks here. I mean, Denzel Ward, you don't know if he's going to be... and especially with that team in general. I mean, that would be your nickel corner alongside... Jalen Ramsey and AJ Bouye.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah,
that's the best cornerback trio in the NFL, even with what the Broncos have. That would be absolutely insane.
Yes. Christian Kirk went to Buffalo. That would give whoever their quarterback would be, Nathan Peterman, Tyrod Taylor, really good weapons with Zay Jones and Christian Kirk. And Christian Kirk might be their number one if that's the case with this scenario.
Yeah.
Cortland Sutton went to L.A., giving Jared Goff another smile on his face with Cooper Kupp and Cortland Sutton and Sammy Watkins.
Is a free agent.
Huh?
Sammy Watkins is an unrestricted free agent.
There's a sneaky option. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Ogbania Okunrankwo to the New Orleans Saints. Roquan Smith to Pittsburgh. Brian O'Neill to the Minnesota Vikings. Jare Alexander to Philly. Wow, they have Philly all the way in 31. That's interesting. Talking about playoffs, by the way. They have Philly in the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. And Ben Banagu to the New England Patriots. So kind of a bizarre first round with some really good picks in there.
Yeah, no, that's not the worst one. And no Josh Allen in the first round.
Right. No Josh Allen in the first round. Lamar Jackson was actually drafted higher than him. Wait. Lamar Jackson, yeah. I wonder if I said it right. All right, so Broncos are on the clock in the second round. And they're looking at players. And remember, this is the no Kirk Cousins scenario. And as far as players that are available, Mason Cole, center, Billy Price, Levi Wallace, Tyquan Lewis, Josh Jackson, Micah Kaiser, Mandrews, Damian Harris, Malik Jefferson, Royce Freeman, who doesn't get talked about all that a whole lot. Josh Allen, he's going to play tight end for the Denver Broncos. Marcus Allen. So there is still some talent.
Did Tremaine Edmonds just go?
Tremaine Edmonds. So the Tyrell, as far as the picks that went in the second round, Calvin Ridley, Drew Lock says that he declared in this one. Darius Guice, Martez Ivy, Orlando Brown, Bryce Love, Tyrell Crosby.
So Tremaine Edmonds isn't there, though?
Tremaine Edmonds is not there, so he is available.
Oh, he is available.
Yes.
I would love Tremaine Edmonds. Broncos need linebacker help. If Orlando Brown was here, I'd probably take him. But looking at the board here, I see some guys that will be... specifically some tackles that I might be able to get in the third round. And I really love Tremaine Edmonds' skill set. He's 6'5", 250 pounds. He's played edge rusher and off-ball linebacker for Virginia Tech. He can sift through the traffic. I think he can play 4-3 or 4-4. And from everything I've heard, he's going to break the combine. especially for his side. He's supposed to be a spark freak. You ever heard of Spark?
Oh yes, Spark. Yes,
Yes.
that training company, I should say. That's SPARQ.
SPARQ, but Spark scores are when it takes a player's not only their athleticism but their size. And when you have a guy that as big as Tremaine Edmonds that's going to be as athletic as he is, I think he is somebody who's a first-round pick. I actually mocked him to the Broncos in the second round in my way too early 2018 mock draft preseason. So, self-fulfilling prophecy.
Is that
I
was gonna say, is 6'5" too tall for a linebacker? Like for?
I don't think so, especially for a 3-4. When you have a guy coming downhill, I mean, he's not going to be having to take offensive linemen on like head-to-head leverage-wise, like face up, like you see with interior defensive linemen. But you see guys like Jamie Collins or Ben Derek McKinley, who are both 6'4", 6'5" as well. And Tremaine Edmonds, I think, is comparable to both those guys in terms of athleticism, range, and instincts. So I really like Tremaine Edmonds. I think he's a first-round pick. I think his name needs to be up there with Roquan Smith and Rashaan Evans, and I am a big fan.
Also, Micah Kaiser as well.
Yeah, he's way more limited athletically, though. I think Micah Kaiser is a day 3 player, where Tremaine Edmonds, I think, is top 30, top 40 player.
So Tremaine Edmonds is the pick in the second round. And let's see what happens as far as the end. Billy Price went to the Cincinnati Bengals. There's Desmond Harrison going to the Arizona Cardinals. Damian Harris.
Desmond Harrison, round 2?
Yeah.
Vindication. See, I'm telling you, he's got some serious hype.
Marcus Davenport went in the second round. Let's see. Josh Jackson went to the Jets. Daron Payne to Dallas. Let's see. Brandon Parker went to New England. Yeah, I mean, Desmond Harrison went to the Arizona Cardinals in the 15th pick of the second round. Moving on to the third round with picks of Josh Rosen and Tremaine Edmonds. Let's see, players of Mark Andrews, wow, Mark Andrews is still available in the third round. And Jayon Ferguson, Nick Chubb, Rashad Penny, DJ Moore. And as far as the tight ends, Dallas Goedert is rated lower in this Fanspeak player rankings than Troy Fumagalli, Hayden Hurst, Mike Gesicki, Ian Thomas, Adam Brenneman, Marcus Baugh, DeAndre Goolsby.
Ooh, I don't agree.
So Mark Andrews is still available in the third round. And as far as some more offensive linemen that's out there, Dalton Risner, Jerron Christian, Jamarco Jones from Ohio State, the guard Will Hernandez in the third round.
Let's go Will Hernandez. Let's do it.
The Denver Broncos select in the third round Will Hernandez, reuniting him with Sean Kugler, the new offensive line coach for the Denver Broncos. Holton Hill went to Cincinnati. Nick Chubb went to Atlanta. Why do they need another running back? Especially Nick Chubb.
Hashtag silly.
Hashtag Fanspeak Draft Simulator.
Yeah.
Let's see. Terrell Edmonds went to Houston. Harrison Phillips went to New England. Adonis Alexander went to New Orleans. Tony Brown to the Rams. Quentin Meeks to Kansas City. Kurt Benkert went to Jacksonville. And the Broncos still have a third round pick. Let's see, as far as defensive line, Draymond Jones, Trey Tillery, Justin Jones, Reginald McKenzie, Josh Fatu from USC, Deshaun Hand from Alabama, Trenton Thompson from Georgia, R.J. McIntosh from Miami.
Is Jamarco Jones still available?
Let's check and see. Jamarco Jones is still available.
Let's go Jamarco Jones. Let's build that. Josh Rosen, we talked about him having some issues with offensive line stuff. We went pure best player available before. And while I do agree with that, especially when you get a guy like Kirk Cousins, a veteran who's shown that he can play with injuries around him, Josh Rosen hasn't shown that as much. Obviously, he's a rookie. And I think that Will Hernandez and Jamarco Jones, you set up the offensive line there for a long time. I think both those guys are really solid day 3 picks, starters, and I'm really loving the way this draft looks so far with Rosen, Edmonds, Hernandez, and Jones.
And if you were talking about a future, is this a future that actually includes Garrett Bowles moving to right tackle, or would you keep Garrett Bowles at left tackle for right now?
I would let Jones and Bowles compete and just let it go as it will. But Jones is a tremendous athlete. He does tend to play a little bit high pad level. He's going to need to add some weight to his base. I think because of that, he just plays a little bit upright. But tremendous athlete, very long and very mean. And I've heard, again, from Little Birdie, the Broncos were pretty impressed with them at that game that they were at. They went to go see Sam Darnold. They were pretty darn impressed with Jamarco Jones.
Well, that's a good little birdie. We'll see if that birdie ends up resulting in him flying down to the Denver Broncos Dove Valley and him as a draft pick.
Absolutely.
So Jamarco Jones is the draft pick in the 3rd round, the 34th pick in the 3rd round, and we will be heading to the 4th round. See, I think we have a purpose in this draft because it feels like this one's flowing a lot easier than the other one.
Yeah, we just don't have to talk about every single guy.
Right.
We've already talked about a lot of them. So.
All right, so into the 4th round we go. Ronald Jones is still out there as the 71st best prospect overall in the draft. Clyde Farrell from Clemson, Simi Cobb from Indiana, who I love a lot. But I'm kind of biased to the Big Ten, kind of as are you. So Simi Cobb, Marcel Atman, J.C. Jackson, Uchenna Nwosu from USC, Troy Fumagalli, Brandon Faison, is that how you say it? From Virginia Tech. Faison. Josh Adams from Notre Dame, Deontay Burnett, Jordan Thomas, Antonio Callaway from Florida, Sony Michel in the 4th round. Still.
You said Ronald Jones is still there?
Yes, he is.
I think he's too good of a value not to go with here.
Well, I mean, it's
you
in
give Josh Rosen a good guy like that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Ronald Jones. He didn't play the best in that bowl game, but that USC offensive line was absolutely obliterated by Ohio State.
And I think he has a bright future. I really do. And I mean, I think when all is said and done, I think people will be looking at Ronald Jones as a guy that should have been drafted in the 1st round. That's just my opinion.
He still might.
He might. But who knows? I mean, maybe in this draft, I think people will start saying, why wasn't Ronald Jones taken in the 1st or 2nd round? I just think that he's that talented. I mean, he's incredibly shifty. He has incredible awareness when he's running by the sideline. I mean, we saw that run that he had for the touchdown. So I think that I feel like, not to be repetitive, but I mean, I feel like there's multiple running backs that remind me a lot of LaShawn McCoy. And Ronald Jones is one of them.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely supremely talented. And I really like how he's transformed his body. He came into USC, I think he was 180. This season there's talk that he's up to 200, 205. And it shows, especially in his lower half. So I think he's definitely a starting running back in this league. And we added 2 really good offensive linemen and Josh Rosen. You get a guy like, it sounds like C.J. Anderson's probably on the outs. You get a guy like Rojo in there, or Rojo, whatever you want to call him. I think that's a great pick.
Is it possible? I mean, let's just say in this scenario, he's drafted 4th round. Is it possible that he just comes in and he's the starter right away?
Yeah, I think it's, from what I've seen on tape, it's definitely possible. But he's going to have to work on his pass protection. I think that's the biggest hurdle for him. A lot of times those rookie guys, if they don't have their pass protection down, they're not going to see the field because you can't be a liability in that regard. So he's probably more of a guy who's going to be situational starting out. But as he adds more mass and technique and just pass rushing or pass blocking ability, you should see him out there.
So Ronald Jones is the draft pick in the sixth pick in the 4th round, and the Broncos are still on the clock with the ninth pick in the 4th round, where Troy Fumagalli is still out there. Dallas Goedert is still out there. Goddard, sorry. It's so easy for me to say Goddard instead of Goedert.
Yeah, it's easy.
Goddard. So Dallas Goedert.
Goddard.
A little play on words there.
There you go.
Goddard is available, as he should be, apparently, according to the player rankings here. But in the 4th round, Dallas Goedert is out there. Troy Fumagalli is out there. Clyde Farrell.
That's silly. He shouldn't be out there still.
Clyde Farrell.
I don't even want to take him just out of realism. He's a first-round pick.
Which one? Clyde Farrell?
Clyde Farrell's a first-round pick. Yes, absolutely.
Now, as far as cornerbacks,
we should be looking cornerback, safety, edge rusher, and defensive line.
there's a good amount of safeties still here. Justin Reed, Quinn Blanding, Chase Hansen, Donnie Miles, Andrew Weingard from Wyoming, Van Smith, Dominic Sanders, and then in corner, J.C. Jackson, Brendan, what was it, Faison?
Yeah, but let's go J.C. Jackson.
J.C. Jackson from Maryland. And what is his story?
J.C. Jackson is actually a guy that I would not draft unless I met with him. He has an interesting background. He was a very high recruit at the University of Florida. Very, very talented player. But he was kicked out of Florida because there was something with a robbery. And, Florida's just been a mess recently. But he came on to Maryland, and he has been phenomenal there since being there. He's literally one of the better athletes, size athlete kind of guys at that position. He's listed at 6'1", 205 pounds, and so we're gonna see what happens. But yeah, no, I got it here. He was with 2 other individuals, and he was charged with robbery, and he was accused that Jackson was the leader of the other 2 individuals. Led 2 other individuals into a home where property and money was stolen. The charges were dropped, but he was suspended and was kicked off Florida. It's been clean at Maryland since, and him and Holton Hill, who's another guy that was kicked off or suspended from Texas, are potentially 2 of the better cornerbacks in this draft, but they have some baggage. So he's definitely a guy you want to interview, and if he sucks to interview, and you can tell he's not sincere or hasn't learned, and you're hearing bad things from his coaches at Maryland, avoid him. But the talent is absolutely incredible, and he wouldn't surprise me at all if you're getting a decently high-quality starter at cornerback here in the 4th round.
So the Broncos went J.C. Jackson and Ronald Jones, which is probably the steal of the entire draft. Who knows? Oh, wow. You'll like this one. Tanner Lee was drafted in the 4th round by the Dallas Cowboys. That's a shocker.
Yikes.
That's about the reaches of reaches right there. I can attest to that one just watching all of his games. I love the guy. I love Tanner Lee. I think that if he probably goes to a system and more professional coaching, if he can probably go there and maybe make his name for himself as a backup. He's got the tools. And if there's probably as far as 2 tapes, maybe 3 tapes, he did play his best in blowout losses, but he did play his best against Ohio State and Wisconsin and Penn State. Of all of the different games, but he did throw a ton of interceptions early on in his season. which probably shot down a lot of his draft stock. All right, so in this 5th round, there are still some good players available. What is it?
Kiki
Coutier from Texas Tech, the wide receiver. Darius Leonard, South Carolina. Jester Wee, Azim Victor, Miles Gaskin, Elijah Holder, Ed Paris, Amon Marshall, Anthony Miller, the pretty underappreciated wide receiver from Memphis. And then as far as corner and safety, Elijah Holder, Jamal Peters, Blase Brown. Safety, Andrew Weingard, Van Smith, Dominic Sanders, Godwin Agabuki from Northwestern, Stephen Parker from Oklahoma, Trey Marshall from Florida State. Let's see. We want to go wide receiver again. Dante Pettis, Paris Campbell from Ohio State, Braxton Berrios from Miami.
Question. I have a question for you. I haven't heard this name yet, and it's somebody that I really like. Josh Allen from Kentucky, linebacker. He's actually an edge rusher, but I think he's probably listed at linebacker here.
Josh Allen from Kentucky is still out there. He's actually rated the 173rd best overall prospect in this scenario.
Silly. Josh Allen is a good outside linebacker, inside linebacker. He's played great at Kentucky. This season, he's been all over the field. He uses rip moves. He has bend. He's got good size, and I'm a big fan. Honestly, how I kind of stumbled upon Taven Bryan, being that dominant, as I was watching Kentucky, Florida, looking at Josh Allen, because I got a tidbit that Josh Allen is a guy that you need to check out. So I'm a big fan of him. I think that he has potential to be he's probably more of an edge guy at the next level. I'm not sure if he's actually declared yet, but he's somebody that I like a lot, and I think he projects very well as a good edge rusher in the NFL.
There are quite a bit of linebackers in this prospect ranking, although Jake Seachy's not here.
He probably went already. I think looking at this board, I think I saw them go earlier.
All right.
I also really like another guy listed here, but I think he's maybe at edge, is Lorenzo Carter.
Yeah.
Yep, but I figured, we already got our more of a off-ball guy in Tremaine Edmonds. Let's get Josh Allen to rush the passer.
You mean not play quarterback? Josh Allen?
We might as well take both of them. Heck, if he's there in the 5th round, I would take Josh Allen.
The quarterback or the linebacker? Or both?
Both. 5th round, I would take either of them in the 5th round.
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
So Josh Allen, the linebacker, just like Brandon Marshall, the wide receiver, Brandon Marshall, the linebacker.
Yep.
So now taken in the 5th round is Josh Allen. And I believe they had one more 5th round pick now that I remember it.
We should have 2 5th round picks.
Yeah. And especially with that last draft. All right, so some more players available.
I know who I want. I'm guessing he's there. Based on this board, which I think is kind of silly if he is there. I want Auden Tate.
Oh, Auden Tate?
Yeah.
Auden Tate is there.
Absolutely. Give me that guy.
So they have done...
5, runs a 4.5 40, and I don't know if you caught the bowl game, but he had 4 touchdown catches and 120 yards on 5 receptions.
I remember you blowing up the message feed with Carl and I, saying how much he was blowing up in that bowl game.
Oh man, he's had some health issues, but as far as a physical freak and the ability to go up and play the ball in the air and just be a dominating presence, especially in the red zone, Auden Tate's really good. I honestly think Auden Tate, if he does come out, he could end up being a first-round caliber wide receiver in this class. He's listed at 6'4", 225, and obviously there's going to be some questions about his health and everything, but my goodness. There's some on Draft Twitter that have him as their wide receiver 1 overall.
I was going to say, you even mentioned that he could potentially even be a much better prospect than Mike Williams coming out. The Mike Williams that came out last year. And Mike Williams was, to some degree, was maybe even the best wide receiver prospect last year.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Carl would disagree, but, man, I am a big fan of him, and I think that I've been a big fan of him since last season, too, and it's really a shame that DeAndre Francois was injured so early on, because otherwise you'd be hearing a lot more about Auden Tate.
All right, well, that should potentially be the end of the 5-round non-Kirk Cousins scenario. And in this draft, it included the quarterback of the future, Josh Rosen, Tremaine Edmonds, Will Hernandez, Jamarco Jones, Ronald Jones, J.C. Jackson, Josh Allen, and Auden Tate. I think this one's probably the more likely scenario. I mean, really, if you ask me.
The other one is not likely because we kept getting first-round level talent like day 3.
Right. But, I mean, Will Hernandez is already kind of a third-round guy. Josh Rosen was already going to be in the top 5 anyway. The only one question mark I would still have would be the Ronald Jones pick.
Don't be surprised if Will Hernandez works himself up. I've heard some first-round buzz for him.
Same here. I know I was... I feel, Will Hernandez, I was talking to Eric about it, Eric Trickle, that I feel like maybe Will Hernandez might end up having kind of that same buzz, different player, but that same buzz as Forrest Lamp last year. A guy that, was maybe unheralded, a guy that not many people knew about, but he's a guy that once you got into that East-West Shrine game or the Senior Bowl is where he was, I believe, either one of those.
Yeah, Senior Bowl for sure.
And he really moved on up with his play, against the D-line in there.
See, for me, I think it feels like, I would say that people did know about him, at least draft nicks like myself, but when you have them playing so well against competition that's going to be playing in the NFL, it shows that they belong. They're not just beating up SWAC competition or, whatever division Texas El Paso plays in. They're whooping up on like Ohio State and Texas. Those guys got those legitimate, well-known helmets, and they belong. So I think Will Hernandez is a guy back end of the first round, top end of the second round. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Broncos targeted him with their second round pick. I was just too happy to get Tremaine Edmonds there. But yeah, no, good draft, and I would be ecstatic with this.
Absolutely, and you wouldn't be the only one. I'm sure that there would be a good amount of Broncos fans happy with the Josh Rosen and Will Hernandez combination, because frankly, Will Hernandez, if he could even start day 1, based on the offensive line.
Too.
Yeah. Well, Nick, thank you very much for the insight on the Fanspeak mock draft. We said we were going to do it, but we're actually going to be doing a full-blown mock draft that doesn't include a simulator between you and I on the Cam Parker Show, and we'll be sure to do that before the NFL draft kicks off. But thank you very much, man, for being a part of the Cam Parker Show, as was evidenced by the New Year's Bowl podcast. We easily could have talked 3 to 4 hours if we wanted to, but just because the draft is so exciting to talk about, and especially since the Broncos season is over with and playoffs are getting ready to get started. But thank you very much, man, for coming on and talking some prospects.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on. It's always fun to do. And Carl would tell you I could do this for 10 hours straight. Would have no issue doing it. Those people, Mel Kiper talking at the draft, and it's been like 6 hours, and some of those guys are starting to wear it down. Not me. I'm getting excited. Like, we're talking just as excited about these third-round guys as the first round.
Right. Well, hey, thank you very much, man, and we will do it again.
All right. Yeah, have a good one. Have a good weekend.
Hey, you as well.
Bye.
And that was Nick Kendell, the host of one of the hosts of the Mile High Huddle podcast. Now, thank you guys for tuning in. We will do another Fanspeak Simulator here in the coming days. Maybe do it with another insight, and we can talk about it a little bit later once we get to that point. But thank you guys very much for tuning into the Cam Parker Show. We will be back on Tuesday. It's the exciting Cam Parker Show episode. Hope you all enjoyed it. Have a good night, and you guys take care.